Okay, this is Denon DP60L number 2. Got 2 of these, and I think this may be my new favorite turntable. Got the other one working well enough for right now, still continuing to do some troubleshooting. So this one came to me, I got an extra tone arm. My Peter just kicked on, so it's kind of cool today. Got the S-shaped tone arm and weight that comes with it. And again, had a couple of cocktails one night. I was unsupervised and I bought some turntables that I probably shouldn't have, but I got them at great prices. So this is less than half of what they sell for. So I got this one for, and it has the cover's in really good shape. It has a cartridge on it I'm not going to keep because I don't like these. I don't like P-mount cartridges installed on non-P-mount tone arms, so that's going to be coming off. But what I want to show you is kind of what's going on with this. So the seller said the tone arm didn't move, didn't work. Speed is good on this one. I have not connected it to a scope or any of that stuff. Strobe works, which is cool because I'm troubleshooting the strobe on my other one. So that's going to be helpful. And I have to plug this in before I can use it. That'd probably be a good idea. But 33 works, 45 works. And what's cool, now stop does not work. For some reason I cannot hit the stop. The stop does not respond. So I'm hoping that when I go in and recap this, because again this is going to be mine, at least for right now, when I recap it, I'm hoping that that will take care of that, or there may be some troubleshooting involved. 45 is good, 33 is good, and the cool thing is the tone arm lifter is actually working. So let me show you. I'll put the tone arm on here. Now the problem is you probably won't be able to see it, but if I hit start, now this has been sitting in the garage overnight, but see how the tone arm is slowly starting to drop, right? And it will slowly come up at the end of a record. So record's playing, end of the record, comes up and shuts off. The problem is, and you can't probably really see this very well, this tone arm is super gummy. Like, see how it'll just, yesterday in the house anyway, it was just sticking. It would stick up and stick down, right? So I'm sure the bearings in here are absolutely gummed. So we'll look at freeing that up first. And in this video I probably won't do a full assembly. Now it's actually working pretty good. Yesterday it was really bad, but it seems to be moving, but I've kind of exercised it a little bit as well. But this is working fine. The actual electronic mechanism to do that is working fine. So it's these bearings here that I think are just in rough shape. So remove this tone arm. Yeah, I can feel resistance on that. So the first thing I'm going to do, now my intent right now is not to completely disassemble this. My intent right now is just to kind of loosen that a little bit and see what effect that has. Because I don't know if someone has tightened the bearings. But I just want to take a screwdriver and do like a half, not even half, maybe a quarter turn, if I can find the right size screwdriver. I don't want to strip it. Oh my gosh, that is so tight. I can't even loosen it. And I may have to loosen the outer. Let's see, I'm trying to remember. So you've got an outer screw and then an inner screw. And I believe the outer screw locks the inner screw in position, so I may have to loosen the outer screw first. But I can't really get a screwdriver in there to do it. So I may have to chew on this for a minute. And I've done it a couple of times on other turntables, but for the life of me, right now it's escaping me how I'm going to loosen that up. So I'm going to do that off camera, come back and let you know what I did. Yep, I turned that, I loosened that inner screw up just a little tiny bit, and now the tone arm goes up and down freely. And what I was referencing was, see if I can zoom in here and show you. What I was referencing, was the screws on the side. There's an inner screw, right, and then there's like two grooves on either side of it, an outer screw to kind of hold in position. So what I did is I just turned that inner screw not even probably a 1/16 of a turn, and it's not, the tone arm isn't sloppy, it's free now, right? So now if I hit tone arm up and down, you should, I hit start, right? So tone arm's going down, end of the record, tone arm comes up, shuts off. So that was a pretty easy fix. Now again, these are probably, whoops, let me get out here. These are probably all gummed up. So at some point I will have to take that apart and address that. But I'm not going to do it today. Let's see, what else? So I think what I'm going to do this morning, I've got about a half an hour. I want to look at one thing while I have this one on the bench, and that is I want to put this on the scope and see how close the electronic alignment is for the square waveforms. This did have a broken clasp here. I did the super glue baking soda trick to it. It's relatively clean. You can't, unless I point it out, you really can't tell. There's a little bit of white residue on there, but not much. So what I want to do with this is get in underneath here. Oh, and I also had like a thought on how to make it easier to attach my scopes to the test points, which to me it was like, oh, you know, I should have thought about that. These feet have seen better days. That foot is falling apart. The rubber is all nasty on it. I don't know if you can see the cracking. I do have a couple of other feet though, but they're for a different model Denon. This one's pretty cracked as well. So those feet don't. Yeah, the feet aren't even. So I'll have to figure out what to do about that. And when I say not even, if you line these up and put the bottoms, see how that screw on the right's lower? I mean, it looks like it's a shorter screw, but actually it's the same length screw. It's just pushed down into the material here. So it looks like I've got two good feet, well, two maybe good feet, and two bad feet. But anyway, going back to what I was talking about, was putting the test points on this, and adjusting the pots is kind of a chore if you have the test points connected to a probe, right? There's not a lot of room underneath there. So last night I was like, you know, as I'm thinking about what I'm going to do to this morning, I had a thought. Why don't you take a few little pieces of wire and attach them to the test points? All I got to do is wrap the wire or use clips or something to that effect. So that way it makes it easier. I don't have to put the probe underneath here, try to find room for it. Man, those are tight. And risk shorting something out, or I normally don't like to use this if I don't have to, because it'll strip out the wood. It'll just, but to get these out, I think it'll be easier. And I'll show you what I'm talking about when I'm talking about the test points on here, because I really didn't explain that in the other video. I'm still working on that other one. So this has not been recapped. I don't see any evidence of any work. The other one I recapped everything. So here is where you connect to the probe. Let me zoom in. So that little white, you have three little test points here, 3 little wires sticking up. So what I was trying to do before was I take my probe and I try to attach it to that, and then I get the black lead on the other side, and the pots are right, the pots that you adjust are right here, and it's a mess. So again, what I thought of last night was I've got a ton of excess wire from lamp repairs and things like that. So I can just take some wire, right? In fact, you know, I can leave one of these, I can just cut it in half, leave it pretty long. Strip the ends of the wire, just wrap them around those. And then, you know, the wire can just kind of hang out underneath the turntable, out of the way, maybe out the back, and make it easier to get this thing aligned. I also am wondering, I think on my other turntable the speed is stable, but what I am wondering is if I have to change the trigger point on my oscilloscope, or the trigger on my oscilloscope, for 33 and 45. So I can dial in 33, and you know, I can do that by changing my oscilloscope trigger point, but I did not try to change it for 45. So what I'm thinking is I may have to change it for 45. So I just want to see what this looks like on the oscilloscope in terms of the waveform. And before last week, I had never adjusted a turntable and got a square wave successfully. I'd only tried once before because I had no idea what they were telling me I had to do. So I had to do a little bit of extra research. And you know, it's like you don't know what you don't know, and the service manual just says, hey, connect a probe to these 2 points and look at the square wave and make an adjustment. It doesn't say, you know, there's an assumed level of knowledge as far as what you have to do to your scope to actually read that form. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go off camera while I monkey around with these wires. Again, it's cold in the garage today. We have another, not winter storm, but we've got another snow event happening today, so, and it's kind of chilly in here. So anyway, I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to come back, reposition the camera on the scope so you can see what I'm referring to, and then kind of see where that gets us in terms of whether or not I do have to change the trigger point for 45, because that will allow me to make sure that other turntable is actually set properly. So anyway, I'll be back in a couple of minutes. Okay, so here's the scope. Now, here's what I got before, right? So I just connected my scope. Oh, and by the way, I didn't do a new wires. As I got about a minute into it, and I was going to start wrapping one of the test points, and I'm like, why don't I just use the some mini grabbers. I've got 25 pair of mini grabbers. So I just use my mini grabbers to connect to the test points, and that's so much easier. It took me, 10 seconds to do that. So here's what you would expect to see on this. Now, my other Denon, I will tell you, well, I'll share that when I get to that point. But you power on, and notice how that pulse is moving across the screen, right? That's because the trigger point is not set for channel 2, right? I've got the probe attached to channel 2. So you go into the trigger menu, and if you probably can't make it out, but I'm in the trigger menu on my scope, right? And you have to change the trigger. So what I didn't understand before, right, or I guess what I assumed was as long as I had a probe plugged in, then I didn't have to adjust anything else. Well, you've got to change your trigger. So in this case, I'm plugged into channel 2. So move that to channel 2, and now I get that pulse right smack dab in the middle. So if I turn on 45, now here's what's interesting. My other turntable, I still get very distorted output in terms of what I'm seeing on the scope. So if I go to 45, you'll notice how this is what you expect to see. Now that pulse has to actually be adjusted to where it's at if you look at the square wave, you want to have that pulse hit at the 40% distance, I guess, just for the sake of, layman's terms, 40% on this side and 60% on this side. So what you do is you align that pulse right to about where the tip of my finger is. So I'll show you what that looks like. And for this turntable, you adjust 45 first. So I've got a fish underneath here, and I did this so many times on the other one that I should be able to find the variable resistors pretty easy. And now, having said that, I can't find them. Totally doing this blind. Oh, there's one. Okay. So watch as I put my adjustment tool on that variable resistor and I start to turn it. Whoops. I got it on the wrong one. See how it's starting to move a little bit? I'm just touching that variable resistor. But now it's, gosh, man, it's like, again, when you're doing this and you can't see it. So see how it moved? So I want to put it right about there on 45. And then if I switch to 33, see how it messed up 33's alignment? Now I want to turn it to where it's hitting the same spot, that 40-60% spot for 33. It's kind of crazy right now. There we go. So, and that's about at that 40% spot, right? And I can move that square wave to where right now you're like, well, it's not 40%. Well, it is if you move the position of the square wave, right? So if I'm looking at the square wave here, 40% on this side, 60 on that side. So right now, this is aligned. Now, after I recap it, I'm going to want to align it again. But again, I just kind of wanted to show you, and I wanted to take advantage of having a working, seemingly working Denon DL60 to see if there was a trigger point adjustment necessary in the other one. There isn't. I can tell you now that I'm going to continue to get this weird kind of rolling, right? What you saw before, it's kind of like this. You can't even adjust it. It bounces all over. It's like the square wave and the pulse. They're not aligned. And I'm still sorting that out on the other turntable. So now the stop function I need to sort out. I'm hoping as I go in and recap this that I can sort that issue out. But I did want to show you kind of what that alignment looks like. So now as I go to work on my Sony PSX65, I have a 75 coming. I've got these two 60s, so now I can kind of align them. Now I'm still unsure as to why I can't do 45 on the other one, but that's for the other video or the other DP60. So anyway, what I'm going to do now is take the platter off. And I'm going to see if I can sort out that stop button issue. See if it's a mechanical thing or not. And this spring is laying on my bench. I don't know what that spring goes to. So I don't know if that's for this or some other project, but that's probably not good. So I need to figure out where that came from. It just was laying there. I didn't touch that part of the table. So anyway, let's. I'm going to move the camera up top, start working on this, and kind of keep you updated as I go through the motions. Okay, so I recapped this board, and the start or the stop control circuit is actually over here. Now I don't know what exactly that means, and I have not tested the caps yet, but if this is anything like the other DP60L, the other one, all the caps were more than 20% out of tolerance. Some of them were double, and that was just on the main board over here. So I would assume this is the same. I don't like to just recap as like a strategy to fix a problem, but the caps were so bad on the other one that bad capacitors could certainly influence that circuit. I just want to check to make sure I got all the caps in the right orientation. There were 2 caps, and what I do is I mark mine with a red dot to know that I replaced them. So these are all the caps I replaced. There are 2 non-polarized that I don't have, so I'll have to order some of those. And they're both what were they, 4716s, I think. So 47 microfarads, 16 volts, non-polarized. At least according to the schematic in the board and the cap, they're non-polarized. So I think this is good. All of the caps seem to be in the proper orientation according to the board, and I mark them, right? So I always put a little black strip towards me, right? So they're sitting on the board like this, so I can confirm orientation if the board is mismarked, or and I do a cap at a time. So I'm like, pull this cap, and I keep the value in my mind. I go grab it, but the whole time I'm saying, okay, negative to the right, negative to the right, negative to the right, or negative to the left, or whatever the case is. Just so I can kind of keep that straight, and then I verify, through whatever visual clues I have. So let's throw this on, and I'm curious to see if that did anything positive or negative in general, and then specifically for the stop, the manual stop function. And there may be other elements to that function on other boards, or on the other board, I should say. It could actually be the board that houses the button, but I think that would be kind of unlikely, but you never know. So what I want to see is, with my fingers crossed, nothing weird happens, which sometimes does. I want to make sure speed is good. So all the lights are on, stop light is on, put it on 33. That button sticks a little bit, put it to 45. And I hit stop, and stop is not responding. So it wasn't a capacitor, but that works there. So I don't know, could it be a bad stop button? I mean, maybe? I don't know. I'm not super familiar with how these buttons work, but there's no. But here's the weird thing. So let me stop. Let me just power it off and restart it. So if I hit power, yeah, there's no stop function at all, but I can switch between the speeds with no issue. So let's physically look at that button and see where it's wired. I didn't do that. I just looked at the service manual. Silly me, right? And it's just about time for me to grab some chow. So I will come back to this after lunch. But here, so this is interesting. So here is the stop switch right here. Now, it's loose. So could that cause the problem? That'd be awesome. It's just a matter of being loose. I mean, that would make sense. Maybe someone had tried to troubleshoot this before and pulled it, which could be. So all the solder looks good. Let me just see what that did, if anything. But the interesting thing is that actually goes to a different board. Now I don't like to run this without the platter. Direct drive turntables don't appreciate that. I mean, sometimes you have to troubleshoot, but for the most part you don't want to do that. And that was not the problem. So I wonder if somebody maybe went in here and tried to look at that. I don't know, you never know when you get something like this that's not working. But if you look at the power, that power button, it's this yellow cable here, and it looks to be a black cable, a blue cable. Not sure where those go. And then, so the stop looks like it's got a wire going to, that would be 45. And then 45 goes to the 33 switch. And then we've got a blue wire going from stop to 33 to 45. All of those look to be intact. And we also have blue and yellow, and blue goes to, looks like maybe blue goes to this spot on this board, and yellow goes to this spot on this board. So recapping this board, could it potentially resolve that issue? I would assume that there's the chance it would. Again, my intent was to also recap this board. Now with this board, I'm not going to do it right now. I'm going to come back, but I want to explain to you some gotchas on this board, at least a couple that I found based on what I did on the other turntable. This board, on the other one, this board was cracked because when you remove this, really to get to everything easily, you want to remove this screw. You'll remove a screw here. You'll remove a screw here. You'll remove these two clips. And what I did is I marked and removed these two wire wraps and these two wire wraps, and it made it so much easier to flip this board all the way out and then work on it. Now the other one already had some of these zip ties, or these wire zip ties. They were cut already because someone had been working on it. So I'm thinking cutting that would probably be good as well. So my plan is when I come back from eating, I want to work on recapping this board, and I think I was able to replace all of the electrolytics when I did the other one. So yeah, so when I come back, I'm not going to film that. I'm just going to, disconnect everything and then flip the board out and change the caps. So that's the plan, and then I'll have this and this recapped, and then we'll see what happens with that stop function. And I do have another switch that I could swap out. Looks like it wouldn't be too difficult to do that. There's some additional, I'll just take it out and look at it. There are some additional things there. suppose looking at this switch would probably be a good first step. I'm sure it's just a simple switch. Yeah, just a little button and an LED. But man, somebody sprayed it, I think. Oh my gosh, look at this. I think someone sprayed this. There's crap all over. I don't know what that is. I don't know, did someone try to de-ox it? I think someone may have sprayed the switch. Because there's stuff all over here. I mean, it's all, I don't know, you probably can't see it, but it's all on the outside of it. And to me, I don't know. This isn't that kind of switch. Whoever was thinking that. So this switch might actually be damaged, who knows. I know it lights up. Ooh, I know it lights up. Dang. Gotta unplug it when you're working on it, especially when you're dealing with, you know, the power switch right there. That'll get your juices flowing. So, and that's not the right screw. That's a different screw. Yeah, this screw should be there. Not that this would make a difference, but this screw belongs in that position, and this screw goes up here. So I'm pretty confident someone was in here working. And I don't know how much more I'm going to try to chase down this stop button issue, because if someone opened this up and sprayed some crap in there, I don't think that's probably good for the switch. Which to me, that's what looks like was likely to have occurred. So let's just do a quick function test. Again, I'm sure it did not change anything, but you never know. Let's see. Light's still on. 33 still works. 45 still works. Stop not responding. And now if these are the same switches, I could just swap out stop and 33, but you know, I don't think I'm going to worry about this too much. I think I'm going to recap it and see what that does. But I'm really suspecting that this has been there's something wrong with this switch, or someone just sprayed it because they were trying to fix whatever's wrong with the circuitry. So hey, look at that! I unplugged it this time. So I'm gonna go eat some lunch, come back, recap that other board. Test it again, adjust it, see where everything lands, and then cosmetically clean this up, work on the dust cover, and then start testing it. Man, I'm excited. This is pretty gouged. I wonder if I can somehow clean that up. It's pretty scratched. I don't know. Okay, anyway, I gotta go eat. So I know it'll just be the next segment, but I'll see you in a little bit. Alright, well, I'm back from lunch, and as you can see, I haven't recapped this yet. Because I wanted to look at this power switch, because it was kind of running in my mind in the background. I think someone sprayed WD-40 in here because it's like an oily residue. Deoxide or something like that would have evaporated a long time ago. So I think someone tried to hit it with some oil or something. So now this other button, I mean, 33 works. It's just a little bit, there's like a little catch to it. But, and I tried to put my voltmeter on here just to kind of see what was going on when I hit the button. The problem with that is, you know, there's really nothing to grab onto on the board. And I'm really not that interested in like sorting this out right now. This is going to be my table. I always listen to a record in its entirety, and if I can, I'll just hit the up button and shut it off, right? So I'm not going to go crazy on trying to figure this out right now. But I was going to try to get my probes on and get some voltages, but I think, you know, the only way I can really do that is if I hit one of the speed buttons, and I don't want to do that with this upside down. It may or may not hurt it, but it's just like I don't want to risk any damage. I'm sure it would be fine, but I don't want to make that assumption and then find out that I should not have done that. So I think I'm going to leave that power switch for now. And I don't know how easy it is to replace that little tiny button. I'll have to look that up, see if there's a part number for it, and see if I can get a replacement maybe. But again, I'd like to know what's going on with it, but it's just not something I want to spend a lot of time on right now. So, oh, one thing I did want to do though, before I jump in and replace all these other caps, I do want to test some of the caps that I pulled. And we'll just do a couple here and see what these measure. So this should be 470, I think. 549, so that's more than 10%. This is 0.62, it's supposed to be 0.47. So, same with that. Yeah, all these caps are going to be, just like on the other one, all the caps were just 20, 30% over. A couple were 100% over, like double. Nothing shorted here, which I didn't suspect anything of being short. This is 111. That's close. All right, so and I'll be honest. I'm debating right now. I've got another project I need to jump into. I don't know if I'm gonna. I don't think I'm gonna recap this right now. I may do it in this part. I may move it to another part. I don't know. I think right now I'm kind of inclined to button this up, kind of test it out for a little bit and see what it does. Kind of what I'm thinking at the moment. So anyway, I think I'll probably just leave this, and I really need to jump on another project that is going to be kind of a nightmare to work on. So that should go like that. So I'm gonna shut this one down for now. So just in case, I can always edit this out later if I decide to add a segment to this. But as always, if you like what you see, hit like, hit subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next video. Okay, I don't have a lot of battery left in my camera, so I want to film this real quick. So this is Denon number 2. And since I have 2 Denons, I thought, hey, this stop button isn't working. Why don't I just replace it with the switch in the other one, which is what I did, because I wanted to confirm that it was either the stop button or, right, you know, whatever the problem was. And so it's the button. Now these buttons, I have no idea who makes them, what model number they are. There's nothing stamped on here. There's nothing really to open up and probably fix or repair. So I'm going to take this off of this turntable, and I'm going to put it in the 45 position on the other one. So this is the bad switch. And I'm going to have kind of one tricked out, 100% working, 100%, you know, kind of done turntable, and the other one I'll kind of limp it along until I can find some parts for it. So for right now, and I did replace the LEDs on this with amber or orange. I removed the red. I like the orange better than red. It looks a little more retro to me. So I'm going to keep them on this. But what I'm going to do next is I'm going to put this into the other one, put the bad switch into the 45 position on the other one and see what it does. As long as I don't touch this, 45 should work on the other one. Well, no, as long as I touch this, 33 should work on the other one, but you know, with the speed issues on the other one, I wasn't going to play 45s on it anyway. I could always put this in the stop position on the other one and try to figure out what this part number is. But yeah, so I'm going to measure this, try to figure out what size it is. It's some kind of micro switch, I guess, and then see if I can locate that. But for right now, I'm going to say that Denon number 2, DP60L number 2 is just about finished. And these things smudge really easily, so I'm going to polish this off a little bit. So anyway, I'm going to kind of wrap this up, polish the dust cover, come back to it when everything is done. I'm also going to swap the tone arm stands. So there's a little screw underneath here, at least according to the schematic there is. And that's my multimeter that I left on. And there's Ralph barking. So I think I can find the screw underneath here, turn it. Well, anyway, I think you know what I'm trying to do. This is the one that's cracked. So again, I want to put all the good stuff on one turntable and kind of have the other turntable as a project. So I'm going to work on those few things and then circle back around and show you the finished product.